in the middle. I'm very sensitive to being socially distanced. First of all, let me just say good afternoon, since it is now 12 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. And when I say us, it's us because I am flanked by our elected leaders that represent this great county. We have remarks you'll hear from Commissioner John O'Grady. You will hear from the president of our city council. You will hear from Senator Herschel Craig. You will hear from State Representative David Leland. And you will hear from Mayor Barnes. We are here at this location where there are 109 employees, 89 full-time employees and 20 part-time employees. They deliver 150,000 pieces of mail per day. It is the largest facility in Columbus, Ohio, with some 70 routes. Well, we are gathered here today because we understand that we must protect our post office from the United States Postal Service's Trump's administration. They have baseless and senseless attacks being made on our postal service. The Postmaster, D. Joy, is pushing for sweeping changes that will significantly and substantially impact all of us. All of us. That's you. That's our small businesses. That is people in this wonderful community, in this state, in this city, in this nation, what they are trying to do. So you see, I'm going back to Washington, D.C. to fight against these changes. We've seen all the photos on the internet of them taking up the mailboxes. I know because you have sent them to me. I have heard you, so we are here. We know that they are doing this to have an effect on this election. But here is what is more importantly. During this pandemic, where we are fighting against the social injustices, where we are fighting for safe and healthy lives, they are affecting thousands of citizens, interrupting them getting their mail, interrupting them getting their mail-in prescriptions. They are having an effect on everyone. People can't trust going to a mailbox and paying their bills, sending a card or a letter to a loved one that's overseas or incarcerated. When you think about the number of seniors in this district, when you think about the well-being of some 85,000 seniors just in this 3rd congressional district, many of them who have a 90-day supply of medicine that's going out. I had a constituent to call me in tears yesterday. Her father just went into remission from cancer, and his medicine is in jeopardy. I had another individual to call me and say he had been waiting 10 days for a check to go to a client who needed to get her car fixed to go to work as an essential worker. When we think about health care and we think about prescriptions, think about our veterans. Think about 1.2 billion prescriptions going out across this country. Most of them from our VAs to our veterans who already have so many health conditions, and we know they need their prescriptions. With some 40,000 veterans in my district, let me send a message to this administration. Let me make it loud and clear. When you attack our postal services, you attack our veterans, and we're going to fight back. We're going to do everything we can for our essential workers, for our seniors, for our veterans, for all of our constituents. We know, and let me end by telling you, this is not new for us. Months and months ago, I voted for $25 billion to come back to help with PPEs for post offices. 2 years ago, when we were hearing from constituents who weren't getting their mail on time, we called in the cavalry. We called in the local, the regional individuals and brought them into our office and set up a consumer advisory board because we care. We care about our constituents, and we know the value of this post office. So we are asking you to join us, send letters, make phone calls. There are 16 members of Congress in this great state of Ohio, and I want you to do a roll call. If on Saturday, every one of them don't vote for the money for Postal Services, you know what you have to do to vote, because that means they don't care about us. So don't get it twisted. Congresswoman Beatty is sending out a clarion call, and we're going to be against anyone who tries to delay our postal services, and we're going to let them know they can't delay our democracy. They cannot win against us, and we know that this is also about delaying your vote, and your vote is your voice. Your vote is your power. Let's not let them do this. I will leave here, I will go inside, and I will buy 5 books of 20 stamps, because we know if half of the adult population goes out and we start buying stamps and saving those stamps, it will help with their deficit. So we have to be on the side of helping our United States Postal Services. It gives me great pleasure at this time to ask our President of the County Commissioners, Commissioner John O'Grady, to come next, and he will be followed by Senator Herschel Craig.
Thank you, Congresswoman. It's never a pleasure to have to follow Congresswoman Beatty. So, I grew up playing sports, and I'm a pretty competitive guy, so I've hated all my life to ever lose at anything that I've ever done. But there's one thing above all else that I hate, and that's cheaters. The president's sowing chaos and mistrust in the system so that when he loses, he can say that the system has been rigged against him all along from the beginning. The post office is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution and is even older than our nation. Benjamin Franklin, after whom our county is named, was the first postmaster general. The post office operates more than 30,000 post offices, handling almost 150 billion pieces of mail every year. A couple of months ago, this administration had no problem trusting the post office to deliver 160 million CARES Act checks with the president's name on them. And after in a few more months, we all know that the United States Post Office won't have any trouble delivering 2.5 billion Christmas cards. So while the president is lying about absentee voting by mail being rife with fraud, his Postmaster General decides to institute new procedures that actually slow down mail delivery. Then the president goes on TV and says that we can't possibly trust this system, that any result that doesn't show him winning must mean that the system is rigged. Well, he's lying. This is a manufactured crisis. The president's trying to convince Americans that there's something wrong with the voting system, that they won't believe in the results of this election. And in doing so, he's putting at risk an institution that is vital to connecting Americans with goods and services, life-saving medicines, Social Security checks, and with each other. Well, I won't stand here and ask the president to stop lying and cheating, because he's shown that he can't do that, and he won't do that. But I do call on political leaders at every level of government, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, to stand up against the cheating. Call it what it is, or at least do everything you can to preserve Americans' right to vote, including by ensuring that the post office can do its job. Let's have a fair election and let the best person and the best ideas win. Anything less is un-American. The right of every American adult to vote for our leaders is the bedrock upon which our democracy stands. So make no mistake, when the president attacks the post office, he's also attacking my right to vote, and he's attacking our democracy and our country itself. He's not just cheating his opponent, he's cheating America, and that's not something that I think any of us should stand for. Senator Craig?
Let me first of all thank Congresswoman Beatty for her courage, for her due diligence on this matter. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about the urgency of now. It really is the urgency of now. I think this measure that will attempt to block and usurp our ability to vote, I'm in those categories. I'm a veteran. My sister, who retired from the Air Force after 22 years, works in the post office in Montgomery, Alabama. I think this is tragic, but it's more than tragic. I think those that would seek to create barriers and obstacles in terms of voting, we simply cannot allow it. I think we're here today to say clearly and unequivocally, we're going to fight with everything that we have. I think we talk about the dignity of work. This is what it's about. Those postal men and women every day, all night long, 24/7, are working to ensure that the mail gets out. The Congresswoman is all but not just simply talking about the mail, but those medical supplies that get out to our veterans, our men and women, our seniors. I'm 71 years old. And so for all of those that are suffering right now, that this matters. And so I would say to you, those that are hearing over the television screens and otherwise, as a nation, we simply cannot let this happen. This is a tragic attempt to usurp those that will right to vote, and we simply cannot let it happen. Now I'd like to call our city council president, Shannon Hardin, to come.
Thank you, Senator. Yes. Thank you, Senator. Thank you to our Congresswoman for calling us here today. Any day that our Congresswoman calls us together and says this is an issue, we show up. But we knew this is one that we had to show up and fight for. So she's doing what she has to do as our Congresswoman and heading back to D.C. to fight on our behalf to make sure that this Postal Service and the Postal Services around this district are funded. But really the question is, what are we going to do as residents, as individuals, as constituents, as seniors who depend on the Post Service, on folks who have compromised immune systems and folks who need their prescriptions? What are we going to do? Are we going to have the energy? Are we going to take the time to call our representatives, to call our senators? Are we going to take the time? Are we going to have the energy to send a letter? Because Congresswoman Beatty is going to go and do her part, but the real question is, are we going to do our part? Are we going to send Congresswoman Beatty back to Washington with the energy and with the support and with the tools that she needs to make sure that we get this job done and make sure that our United States Postal Service is funded so that they can do the job that they've been doing, like our commissioner said, longer than our country has been around, which was keeping us afloat. And what really pisses me off is that these postal workers have been working day and night throughout a pandemic, so we can stay in our own homes and stay safe. They have been walking the streets. They have been putting their lives on the line for us, for each and every one of us, and we don't have the dignity to stand up to make sure that they have what they need to continue to support us. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that scenario? So the question is, what are we going to do about it? We all know what this is about. We all know what this is about. It's about voter suppression. But you know what? We have to remember that somewhere somebody is missing a prescription today. We have to remember that somewhere somebody is missing a paycheck that they need. They're out of work. They're missing a paycheck. So as this administration tries to take away your right to vote, remember they're not just hurting that, which is our most solemn responsibility, but they're hurting you personally. They're hurting your health, they're hurting the health of our families, and they're hurting the health of our economies, and we cannot stand that. We need to make sure that this Congresswoman, our Congresswoman, goes back to D.C. with all the energy that we can muster. So remember, get out there, make the phone calls, write the letters, post on social media. We all saw them downtown taking the mailboxes up. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You know it. I know it. And we need to lay the blame where it lies. It's with this administration. And we have a Congresswoman who's going to go back and fight for us to make sure it's done. Thank you, Congresswoman, for doing the work. And it's my pleasure to introduce our state representative, David Leland.
Thank you, members of President Hardin and all the other elected officials here today. I want to also thank Congresswoman Beatty for organizing this because it's a very important issue. So, when we were kids, we were taught that the mail must go through. That rain couldn't stop the mail, that snow couldn't stop the mail, that sleet couldn't stop the mail, that dark of night couldn't stop the mail, and that's been the history of this country since 1792. It's been, the mail has been the glue that has held our country together since 1792. But those were natural calamities that the mail was being delivered through. Now we have a human calamity that is occupying the White House in the United States of America. And that human calamity is trying to stop the mail, trying to do the things that those natural calamities could not do. And you've heard from other people here today about what happens when you stop the mail. You've heard about prescription drugs. You've heard about unemployment and Social Security checks. But mostly, this is an attempt by this human calamity to stop our ability to vote. In the middle of a historic global pandemic, people realize that the safest way to participate in their election process is to vote by mail. And so he is trying to sow doubt into that. He's trying to stop that because he's afraid that he may not get the number of votes that he wants if people use the voting process through the mail. And so even the fact that we're having the discussion about this today, in a sense, plays into his playbook, because it says to people, well, you know, maybe this isn't the best way for me to vote. Maybe I need to do something else. Maybe I need to go put my ballot in a drop box. But then we find out that in the state of Ohio, we're only going to have one drop box per county. So a county of 20,000 people like Vinton County has one drop box, and a county like Franklin County that has 1 million people has one drop box. Can you see what's happening here? Can you see the kind of systematic plan that's going on by Republicans to try to reduce the participation in this election? Because they're afraid that if more people vote, they will be kicked out of office. So I am proud to join here with Representative Beatty and all the other elected officials, and I'm proud of what Representative Beatty is doing and Speaker Pelosi is doing to call the Congress back into session to make sure that the attack of the mail does not continue, because now, more than ever, the mail must go through. And now I'm proud to introduce Mayor Barnes.
Thank you, Senator. First, I want to thank our Congresswoman Joyce Beatty for again being a front runner. Every time there's a crisis or an issue that depresses our communities, she's out in front. She's always leading the parade, and I want to thank her for being the drum major in this case as well. When I think about the Constitution, I think about the preamble. And the first thing that the preamble says is that we, the people, in order to form. And that's what it's going to take here today. Because what we're saying is, we the people, we have to come together, join in where we have a White House that is about me, myself, and I. But we have to show that us and we are stronger than me, myself, and I. Our Congresswoman, as she goes to Washington, she needs to be able to stand on the shoulders of all of us who have to go on a daily basis to receive what the Postal Service brings to us. Our Postal Service is more than just letters, documents, and things like that running through a system. It's a livelihood, a lifestyle, and a lifeline of people who rely on that system to exist. We cannot afford to allow that system to be cut off. We have to come out, regardless of what's being put in front of us, and vote when voting time is necessary to put the proper people in the right places to make sure that our communities, our people, our loved ones, our family members are all secure and taken care of. Our postal system is like a vein from the heart to a lifeline of a body. And we have to make sure that that postal system stays healthy, it stays viable. And I am going to go to a community level with this, because my postman, who comes by my house every day, I know him by name, I know his family, and he brings all different kinds of messages throughout our community. I see him delivering medicines. I see him bringing packages that have been ordered or shipped in. I even see him go check on our seniors in our communities. So he's a front liner that has to be protected and supported as well. If he's doing his job, we have to do ours. I agree with all of our other officials here that we have to make sure that in our communities and where we are, that we are supporting our Congresswoman, and then we need to make sure that the people in our community who support us are supporting her, because she is our spearhead. Councilwoman Beatty is our spearhead. She's going to be the voice for us. She's our seat at the table, and we cannot allow her to go back to Washington, D.C. without support from us, and giving her ammunition to let them know that she is supported by millions of people who believe in what she's doing. We know that the White House is wrong, and I am not ashamed to stand here and say that the White House is wrong. It is trying to tear down a people, and when I say a people, I'm talking about all race, creeds, and colors. It does not matter. I'm talking about people. In order for them to have a selfish, high-sitting seat in the White House, it doesn't work, it doesn't add up, and it will never prevail. Because when we are in the right, from my Bible says that righteousness will always prevail. And we are the head, and we will not the tail, and we will not be allowed to be treated as if we are the tail. So we are heads. Let us take our positions and move forward and support our Congresswoman as she goes back to D.C. concerning our communities.
I think everything has been said. Hashtag White House wrong. Hashtag don't mess with U.S.P.S. Thank you to all of my colleagues for being out here, bringing a strong message for the people, bringing a strong message for the mail-in ballot. We know what this is about. And so we say to all of our social media followers, let's hashtag don't mess with U.S.P.S. Hashtag White House is wrong. And that's why we are here today. We want to thank the media. I want to thank especially State Representative David Leland for calling us, being an early on supporter of saying we're going to stand with you. To my county commissioner, my state senator, president of city council, and Mayor Barnes of Urban Crest, I thank all of you because you always stand for the people and you stand strong. I think, John, your math says it all. Vote. And I will end with that. Vote. Thank you, and thank you to the press. We'll take a few questions.
Congresswoman, what was your reaction to Attorney General Dave Yost coming out and asking the Trump administration not to make changes before the election?
Well, here's what I think. I think if our secretary wants to help us, then we should not have the same amount of drop-off boxes as was so well said by David Leland, 20,000 and a million. So I don't know. When you talk about don't make changes and you're asking the White House not to do it, and you're making changes that don't help us, I think that says it all. Any other questions? Anybody else want to make a comment to that? Anybody? Okay, thank you very much.